Okay, let's talk about something strange that's happening in our modern world. We're all on this relentless quest for happiness, right? We're told it's the most important thing. But what if that constant chase is the very thing making us miserable?
This question just completely flips the script, doesn't it? It suggests that maybe the problem isn't our pain, but that our entire culture has made it unacceptable to feel it. We've somehow turned a basic, fundamental part of being human into a sign of personal failure. So let's dive into what I like to call the happiness deception. This is the idea, it's just in the air we breathe, that happiness isn't supposed to be this fleeting emotion. No, it's supposed to be our permanent state of being, something we are all entitled to all the time. Think about it. Our culture has essentially turned a feeling into a performance review for life. Happiness is no longer a welcome visitor that comes and goes. Now it's a destination. And if you're not living there 24/7, you're not just having an off day. You're basically seen as failing at the whole life thing. And of course, wherever there's a perceived failure, a market pops up to fix it. This has created a massive billion-dollar industry that literally sells happiness as a product. You know the drill. Peace of mind is now a subscription service, clarity comes in a fancy new journal, and your fulfillment is just one more dopamine hack away. We've managed to turn a core human experience into a commodity you can buy.
But this constant pressure, this demand to be positive all the time, it comes with a really heavy psychological price. And it's one we usually pay in silence, hiding behind our perfectly curated smiles. This right here shows the huge disconnect. On one side, you've got these simple, happy slogans we're supposed to live by, the good vibes only mask we wear. But behind it, the reality is often this deep sense of not being good enough and just total exhaustion from trying to live up to this impossible ideal. It's the huge gap between the performance and reality.
And that's where the problem really digs in. Sadness stops being a normal, universal human experience and starts feeling like a personal flaw. So we don't just feel sad anymore. We feel guilty for feeling sad. We start to believe our own emotions are broken and that somehow it's all our fault. But what if this entire way of thinking is just wrong? To really unpack that, we need to step away from the self-help aisle for a minute and listen to some whispers from the past. Let's turn to a couple of philosophers who had a radically different take on what it means to be alive. Just let that one sink in for a second. The 19th century philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer basically argued that our whole modern obsession with happiness is built on a giant mistake. For him, suffering isn't some glitch in the system, it's a core feature of being alive. And right along those lines, another philosopher, Soren Kierkegaard, suggests that we're chasing the wrong goal entirely. The point of life isn't to be in a state of constant joy. The point is to have a deep, and yes, sometimes painful, awareness of our own existence.
So when you put these two thinkers together, you get this powerful counter-narrative. For both Kierkegaard and Schopenhauer, our misery doesn't actually come from our sadness or our anxiety. It comes from the completely absurd expectation that we're not supposed to feel those things in the first place. We've basically set ourselves up for failure.
Okay, so this brings us to a really transformative idea. If pain isn't a mistake to be fixed, then what is it? What if our most difficult emotions actually have a purpose? Yeah, instead of seeing sadness as this enemy we have to fight off, what if we saw it as a kind of messenger? It shows up to tell us that something in our life is out of alignment. It forces us to slow down, to drop the act, and to actually listen to a quieter, more honest part of ourselves. When we numb it or distract ourselves from it, we miss the lesson completely. Kierkegaard actually had a specific word for this deep, modern unease of performing happiness. He called it despair. And he didn't mean just being sad. He defined it as this spiritual sickness you get from being disconnected from your real self. You can think of it as that modern feeling of imposter syndrome, or that hollow feeling you get scrolling through a perfect social media feed. It's the feeling of living a life for an audience instead of for yourself. So if chasing happiness is the trap, then what's the alternative? Well, the goal isn't to find some better, smarter way to be happy. The real goal is to stop chasing happiness altogether and to start pursuing something called wholeness instead. The path forward really requires a big shift in our thinking. It's moving from forcing an outcome to just allowing what is. It's about learning to sit with our discomfort instead of running from it. It means treating your inner world not like a problem you have to solve, but like a guide you need to listen to. This is all about authenticity, not optimization. And the reward for walking this path isn't that fragile, high-energy happiness you see in commercials. It's something so much deeper and way more resilient. It's a quiet kind of peace that doesn't depend on everything going right, because it's rooted in accepting that life is and will always be a mix of everything. Ultimately, wholeness isn't about choosing the good emotions and rejecting the bad ones. It's about building the capacity within yourself to hold both. It's about understanding that a full, meaningful life has room for sorrow and joy, for doubt and certainty, for grief and gratitude, sometimes all at the same time. And that's where we're going to leave it, with this final thought. What if the parts of yourself that you've been taught to hide or to fix are the very parts that hold the key to a deeper, more authentic life? The real question isn't how to escape your darkness, but what wisdom it holds if you finally find the courage to just listen. Thanks for tuning in.